First off, let me say welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we can consider together the needs of Memorial United Methodist Church. The purpose of our meeting this morning is to provide education and information on the apportionment process, where we stand in 2025 in regards to the payment of our apportionments, and the direction that the apportionment subcommittee recommends as we move forward. For a moment before we start that, however, I find it's always important to look back at the history. Our church is a beautiful facility. We have a beautiful sanctuary. We have a wonderful family life center. The social hall is excellent. And sometimes we need to be reminded this just didn't happen. So indulge me for a few minutes, as an old history teacher likes to go back and take a look at the history of our church. We are 143 years old. Memorial Church began in 1882 when 18 members of this community gathered to find and seek for a Methodist church for like-minded persons in the tiny hamlet of Greer. This body met from 1882 to 1888 on alternating weekends at First Presbyterian Church and in the top of Hill's Store, which is located, or was located, at the corner of Poinsett and North Main. In June of 1888, our first sanctuary was built on 2 acres of land donated by I.A. Mayfield. Our first church was a small wooden structure with a front porch, 4 columns, and steps across the entire front. It was built exactly where our present sanctuary is located and was described accordingly. The newly constructed church is situated on an eminence in a beautiful grove of nearly 2 acres on the outskirts of Greer. I thought you would get some humor in that. From 1888 to 1912, Greer's Methodist Church provided a place of worship in the growing Greer's community. And I did say that correctly. It was Greer's, G-R-E-E-R-S at the time. Our first church became too small to house the growing congregation, so it was demolished and a new brick church was built on the same site, employing the architectural design of the early 20th century, replete with a bell. The bell would ring, summoning the worshipers to come. It was time for church. In March of 1922, Greer's Methodist Church was renamed as Memorial Methodist Church by the congregation as a means of honoring its founding members. In 1940, the education building was completed with monies from a building fund that was started in 1935. Bequests from Mrs. Clara Davenport and Mr. T.B. Snow provided a significant boost of $11,000 to the building fund. An addition to the education building was completed in 1952. The second sanctuary served Memorial Methodist from 1912 to 1957, a period of 45 years. With the post-World War II growth and boom, the second sanctuary could no longer support our growing church. Church leaders decided that a new sanctuary was needed. Our current sanctuary was built in 1957 from a building fund that was started in 1951. In May of 1959, the interior of our present sanctuary was destroyed by fire. Members of Memorial rebuilt and restored the sanctuary to its present beauty, replete with a new organ and a reproduction of the stained glass window above the altar. The original stained glass window was brought from the second church, and was lost in the fire. But the reproduction is indeed a work of art and beauty. From the 1960s on, a new parsonage was built. The present social hall where we are assembled this morning was built. The Family Life Center was built in the early 1990s. We purchased the Rock House and renovated it. It serves our pastor and staff with much needed office and workspace. The growth of Memorial Church over the past 143 years is impressive, and it reminds us again of our heritage and a legacy of faithfully serving God. Our growth occurred, as our history shows, through 2 world wars, a worldwide depression that lasted 12 years, countless small wars and conflicts, and economic recessions. It must be noted that our greatest strength at Memorial Church has been the dedicated loyalty of our congregation to the love of God through Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior, and the desire for us to serve Him and care for His creation. It resulted in a church that is forward-thinking, looking outward for opportunities to serve and convey the love of God through Christ. We are willing to sacrifice for the future and to build for the future generations of believers yet unborn. Memorial United Methodist Church embraces the future and is part of the connectional system of the United Methodist Church. So I'll bring you a question to start. I found from my Sunday school teaching that it's always good to lead with a question. So let's lead with this one. What's your understanding of apportionments?
Everybody pays their share.
Pardon?
Everybody should pay their share.
I'm glad you said that.
It's dividing up what you have among all the places. Just like a family has to sit down and plan. The church has to plan.
Yeah. It's monies that are collected that leave our church here and go for the greater good. This money is very critical to the role that we have in our membership in the United Methodist Church. Let's look at some thoughts, and I'd like for you to ponder these as we go over them. Apportionment giving is based upon the desire to meet the needs of God's family, not just in our neighborhood, but around the world. Apportionments are based on our need to give in order to be spiritually healthy, complete children of God. Apportionments provide avenues for giving so that we can be strong local churches and strong annual conferences and have a strong connection throughout the world as we seek to be in mission and ministry together. Apportionments are the way that congregations are connected to the conference and the world. Apportionments are used to fund the global mission and witness of our church, to help provide the necessary structure to respond in crises locally, nationally, and internationally, and to nurture and develop leaders that are needed today and tomorrow. The basic idea behind apportionments is that local congregations send some of the money they collect to accomplish things that are either beyond our ability to do as individual congregations, or that can be done more efficiently and effectively together. Apportionments denote an understanding that the purpose of the church is not just for its members, but also to reach out beyond itself to engage with the world, to minister to the world, to be in mission with the world. Participating in connectional giving helps us to be in mission with people and congregations around the world. Giving every church, regardless of size, a larger mission footprint. Apportionments allow us to do together what no church, district, or annual conference could do alone. With over 10 million members working in 136 countries, the United Methodist Church's global outreach is very powerful. The printed material that you have there talks about the connection. And if you haven't seen the video that's been put together, I would invite you to stay at the end and take a good look at it. It's impressive. The connection. We at Memorial are not alone. We are not alone. We have 10 million others that are aligned in similar goals and purposes as we. Let's consider the base of that. The base of the connectional system is the district. We are members of the Greenville district. Presently in the Greenville district, there are 54 churches. We are one of 12 districts in the South Carolina Annual Conference that is served by 10 district superintendents that oversee the 12 districts. We did have 12 district superintendents, but a cost cutting. We have been cutting costs the last 3 or 4 years. From 2020 to 2025, it's been a challenging period in the history of our church. Worldwide pandemic that shut the churches down for basically a year. The issues that we dealt with at General Conference that created divisions and separations. We've had some challenges. We've had challenges here. We've had challenges throughout the church. Last year in 2024, the Greenville district apportionments were $1,175,429, of which about $68,000 of that came from Memorial, or $68,000 were assigned to Memorial. The amount of money raised last year in the Greenville district was over $1 million, $1,083,526, 92% of the apportionment requestings last year in the Greenville district were paid. 30 of the 54 churches in the Greenville district contributed 100% of their apportionments. Of course, you note that there are many of these churches that are very small. Their apportionment giving may be several $1,000s. There are also some very large churches in our district as well. We have in the Greenville district, we have 12,974 professing members, which means, again, we're not alone. We act in concert together. We work together. We also are members of the South Carolina Annual Conference. Presently, 835 churches located in 12 districts that are overseen by 10 district superintendents. Professing members, 170,893. The apportionments for South Carolina's annual conference last year requested was $13,985,368, of which $12,635,028 were paid. But we need to put an asterisk beside that, because this includes monies from 225 churches that disaffiliated and separated. That money will go away very soon, leaving a significant shortfall. So, we're members of a district. We're members of an annual conference. We also are members of the Southeastern Jurisdictional Conference that covers 14 annual conferences. Alabama, West Florida, Central Appalachian Missionary, which was formerly known as Redbird Darrell, Florida, Holston, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Alabama, North Carolina, North Georgia, South Georgia, Tennessee, Western Kentucky, Virginia, Western North Carolina. The purpose of the jurisdictional conference is to have local churches, extension ministries, laity, and clergy that are committed to making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world gather to share strategies, make decisions, and celebrate the shared work of the congregation. Meets every 4 years. Last met in 2024 at Lake Junaluska. They also vote on business matters, elect representatives and leaders to serve on jurisdictional and general conference committees, approve a jurisdictional budget for the upcoming quadrennial, elect and assign bishops to serve in episcopal areas within that jurisdiction. So, district, South Carolina Annual Conference, Southeastern Jurisdictional, General Conference. For your information, the United States has 52 annual conferences supervised by 32 bishops in 38 episcopal areas. In Africa, Europe, and the Philippines, we have 75 annual conferences supervised by 20 bishops. The United States has 29,746 congregations that serve a membership of 5,424,175 professing members. There are 83,800 ministers. Worldwide, the population here that we find as members of the United Methodist Church is nearly 10 million people. General Conference occurs as a result of doing the business of the denomination, making changes to the book of discipline, charting ministry throughout the world. So, with that said, that's probably more information than you wanted, but I found it interesting. If I could ask you to pull forth the white sheet that you have in your seat. This is the document that we get from the South Carolina Annual Conference, generally in late summer, that denotes the apportionments that we are requested to provide for the upcoming year. If you examine and look at this, and I would like for you to do that, you can see what the annual conference has requested that we provide this year in apportionments and askings. As you come down the left side of your form, you're going to see an average net funds. An average net funds of $518,794. If you consider that, this is the base number used to calculate memorials apportionments. This number is based on the compensation paid to our pastor. It also includes the total paid for housing, utilities, and accountable reimbursements for other cash allowances. It also includes the total paid for all other church staffs. And factored into it is the total spent for local church programs and other operating expenses. The average net funds calculation does not consider membership, nor church spending on capital additions, debt repayments, direct billing, and missions. There's a formula they use which includes memorials' average net funds divided by the sum of all churches' average net funds multiplied by the conference budget, and that gives us the number and amount of apportionments that we're requested to provide. It's formula-based. The net funds here are determined over a 2-year period of time. And you can, if you look at those carefully, the 22-23 averages are included in the 24 net fund averaging that determines our apportionment. Looking further down the list, I would invite you to look at the bold heading of conference apportionments. These represent ministries of the South Carolina Annual Conference and reflect monies that will be spent in our conference, in South Carolina, in state. Through our connectional giving, we know that we can do so much more together in the United Methodist Church than we could ever do as individual congregations. Through our apportionments, we're doing the kingdom building work that we committed to when we took the vow to join the United Methodist Church. And I will remind you again of that vow, that we would be loyal to the United Methodist Church and support it through our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness. We commit ourselves to being the hands and feet of Jesus. It is good to remember that the point of our apportionment giving is never the money. Rather, it is about faithfully sharing and being a part of the body of Christ, doing Christ's work. Funds listed under conference apportionments represent about 70% of our apportionment asking. So about 7 out of every $10 here go to fund the request through the South Carolina Annual Conference. The general church and jurisdictional apportionments cover 8 accounts that comprise about 24% of memorial's apportionment. Lastly, the district parsonage and office is one account that comprises about 6% of memorial's apportionment. We pay for the district superintendent's parsonage or housing, and we pay for an office with a secretary and all needed accoutrements to conduct business and hold conferences and that type of thing. If you look at these, and one of the things I observed is over the last few years, all of these line items have been cut. Last year, those to the South Carolina Annual Conference were generally in the neighborhood of around 5 to 15%. If you look at the general church and jurisdictional apportionments, you go anywhere in a range there from 20% to 50%. It reflects the temperament of the times. It reflects the reality of where we are. But there comes a point when your cuts can become so severe that you damage the health and well-being of the institutions that we're called to serve. So we need to be reminded of that. If you look at these line items, the apportionments support congregational specialists, our connectional ministries. They provide emergency contingency funds that can be utilized by the cabinet. They provide subsidies for health insurance for retired and disabled clergy. They pay the salaries for 10 district superintendents along with support for housing and an office. They help pay the salaries of pastors that serve churches that cannot meet the minimum salary schedule. If you travel our state, you know that there are a lot of small churches. And some of these can't meet the minimum salary schedule for pastors. So our annual conference subsidizes that. It pays for district and annual conference administration. It pays for the holding of our annual conference. It assists in the purchase of land for new church sites. It helps newly organized churches, supports full-time campus ministries at state colleges and universities, provides senior college scholarships at Claflin, Columbia, and Wofford, provides funds for Spartanburg Methodist College. That's one of my favorite. Do you have an understanding of Spartanburg Methodist College? Dr. David English Kamack. Dr. David English Kamack's daughter lived down at the end of the street when we first moved to Greer in 1974. Mariana Daniel was her name. Lived across from the parsonage, attended Memorial. In 1911, the Lord put upon the heart of Dr. Kamack to do something. And Dr. Kamak believed that all those folks that were working at the time in mills and factories 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and who desired further education and upward social mobility. He founded the Textile Industrial Institute in Spartanburg that provided base levels of education for those who wanted to earn a high school diploma. And that merged into 1927 into offering basically a junior college education, 2 years of preparatory study that would allow you to transfer to a 4-year school and earn a degree. It was a wonderful concept. It was the most unique in America. You would work a week in the mill or factory, and the next week you'd go to school. It was a cooperative venture. And of course, down through the years, you know, it grew to include not only associate degrees, but now they're a 4-year institution and growing strong. They're totally committed to the work of improving the lives of others. And they do this through work-study programs, academic programs, and those that have special needs are provided programs. We support the residents of 3 retirement communities, those who need to supplement and subsidize the funds they pay to stay in these retirement communities. It provides for the development, operation, and maintenance of facilities operated by the South Carolina Camps and Retreats Ministry, Asbury Hills for us around here. Funds are provided by the South Carolina Annual Conference to them. If you look further down at the general church and jurisdictional appointments, our apportionments also support the programs, resources, and materials of the general boards at home and around the world. Funds our share of support for all active and retired bishops. Covers expenses of the General Conference, Judicial Council, and other church administrative agencies. Provides support of United Methodist Church seminaries. And provides scholarships in South Carolina and grants to young men and women who have heard the call and are entering the ministry. Supports church activities and mission with other Christian communions. Provides support for 10 HBCUs and 1 medical school. Provides support of the United Methodist University in Zimbabwe. And provides support of jurisdictional conferences, its missions, programs, and administration. If we pull all of this together, I think what we could say is that our apportionment giving provides blessings for so many people both here and around the world. The giving of our apportionments also provides blessings for us as we attempt to be more like Christ in meeting the needs of others. And by almost 50 years of being a member of Memorial United Methodist Church, we have always paid our apportionments in full. The last 4 or 5 years have been tough years for our church. And I certainly can appreciate and understand that if the money's not there, then you can't pay it. So our administrative council, our finance committees, and others deferred the paying of apportionments. But as I look back on it, the paying of apportionments is really who we are. It's who we are as a people. It's who we are as a church. It's who we are in hearing the great call to be the hands and feet of Christ. We have 9 months remaining in 2025. On behalf of the Apportionment Subcommittee, we would like to request that you prayerfully consider extra mile giving to support Memorial's apportionments during this year. Your weekly, monthly, or quarterly gifts will make a difference as we move over time to fully funding our apportionments. A caveat here. It's very important that our tithes and offerings for our support of Memorial continue uninterrupted, as we have needs that have to be met for our operational and ministry. We have to pay the utility bill. We have to pay salaries. We have to pay for programming. We have to pay for materials. And if you follow the history of our budget here, we've had some issues meeting that as well. The proposed budget is significantly behind generally and has been for the last several years. So I would respectfully request that we not take funds from what we pay here to meet the needs of our church for apportionments. What I would ask you, however, is to prayerfully consider extra mile giving. We are requesting your consideration and support in giving new monies to fund apportionment needs. And these are new funds that we come. It will be a form of sacrificial giving. You have to give up something. And we respectfully request that you consider that and ask you to prayerfully consider it as well. Our goal for 2025 is to raise 1/3 or more of funds needed for our apportionments. We have set a target at $23,000 or more in the remaining 9 months of 2025. We believe that this can be done if we all work together. The needs are greater than ever. I have always found that our church rises to the occasion when a great need or cause is brought before them. Now is the time to address our apportionment needs. Thank you for your time and consideration of our requests this morning.